Hello students, today we are going to discuss classroom strategies supporting UDL and DI. Now, what is UDL? UDL or Universal Design for Learning and DI, that is differentiated instruction, call for specific strategies to facilitate effective inclusion in classrooms. Some of the most common strategies that will be discussed today in this module are cooperative learning, co-teaching, project-based approach, problem-based approach, and explicit instruction. Now, what is cooperative learning? Cooperative learning is a very successful teaching strategy in which small teams, each with students of different ability levels, use a variety of learning activities to improve their understanding of a subject. By using this method, each of our students will feel that he or she is an important member of the class. As Helen Keller had very aptly said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Cooperation is working together to accomplish shared goals. Within cooperative situations, individuals seek outcomes which are beneficial to themselves and beneficial to all other group members. So, cooperative learning is the instructional use of small groups so that the students work together to minimize competition and maximize their own and each other's learning. It may be contrasted with competitive learning, where students work against each other to achieve an academic goal, such as suppose grade A, that only one or a few students can attain, and individualistic learning, where students work by themselves to accomplish learning goals unrelated to those of the other students. According to David Johnson and Roger Johnson, who in 1999 identified 5 basic elements that allow successful small group learning. They are positive interdependence, in which students feel responsible for their own and the group's effort; face-to-face interaction, in which students encourage and support one another. The environment encourages discussion and eye contact. Individual and group accountability, where each student is responsible for doing their part and the group is accountable for meeting its goal. Group behavior, where group members gain direct instruction in the interpersonal, social and collaborative skills needed to work with the others. And group processing, where group members analyze their own and the group's ability to work together. Now we will discuss briefly the various types of cooperative learning, which are basically 3 in number. First is formal cooperative learning, then informal cooperative learning, and cooperative based groups. Now, formal cooperative learning consists of students working together for one class period to several weeks to achieve shared learning goals and complete jointly specific tasks and assignments. What then would be the role of the teacher in formal cooperative learning? The teacher must make pre-instructional decisions in the form of formulating both academic and social skill objectives, deciding on the size of the group, choosing a method for assigning students to the various groups, deciding which roles to assign to the group members. By assigning students such different roles, role interdependence is established, which is very important. Arranging the room to create environmental interdependence and provide the teacher with easy access to observe each group, which increases individual accountability and provides data for group processing. And last but not the least, arranging the materials students need to complete the assignment in order to create resource interdependence. The teacher also explains the instructional task and cooperative structure. He or she may also teach the concepts and strategies required to complete the assignment. The teacher also monitors students' learning and intervenes to provide assistance in completing the task and or using the target, interpersonal and group skills effectively. Teachers also assess students' learning and help students evaluate how well their groups functioned. The assessment of student achievement highlights individual and group accountability. We see a picture where it is very evident, it's clear how the students are bonding, and in spite of their diversity, they are learning well in small groups. Now we come to informal cooperative learning. It involves group learning with passive teaching by drawing attention to material through small groups throughout the lesson or by discussion at the end of a lesson, and typically involves groups of 2, that is turn to your partner discussions. These groups are often temporary and can change from lesson to lesson, very much unlike formal learning, where 2 students may be lab partners throughout the entire semester, contributing to one another's knowledge of science. Discussions typically have 4 components that include formulating a response to questions asked by the educator, sharing responses to the questions asked with a partner, listening to a partner's responses to the same question, and creating a new well-developed answer. This type of learning enables the student to process, consolidate, and retain more information. The teacher tries to focus student attention on the material to be learned, set a mood conducive to learning, help set expectations as to what will be covered in a class session, ensure what students cognitively process the material being taught, and summarize and assimilate what was learned. Now, different types of discussions include introductory focused discussion, where teachers assign students to pairs or triads and explain 2 things. First, the task of answering the questions in a 4 to 5 minute time period, and second, the positive goal interdependence of reaching consensus. A higher level reasoning and consensus building is required. Intermittent focused discussion is another category where teachers divide the lecture into 10 to 15 minute segments. This is about the length of time a motivated adult can concentrate on information being presented. After each segment, students are asked to turn to the person next to them and work cooperatively in answering a question specific enough so that the students can answer it in about 3 minutes. That requires students to cognitively process the material just presented. Teachers must ensure that students are seeking to reach an agreement on the answers to the questions. That is, the teacher should ensure positive goal interdependence and not just see to it that students are simply sharing their ideas with each other. Now, closer focused discussion. Teachers urge the students to conduct an ending discussion task lasting 4 to 5 minutes. The task requires students to summarize what they have learned from the lecture and integrate it into existing conceptual frameworks. The task may also point students toward what the homework will cover or what will be presented in the next class session. The longer a cooperative group exists, the more caring their relationships will tend to be. The greater the social support they will provide for each other, the more committed they will be to each other's success, and the more influence members will have over each other, paving the way to effective inclusion in the classroom. Now we will discuss co-teaching very briefly. What is co-teaching? It is actually a process where a regular education teacher and special education teacher work as partners to teach a group of regular education and special education students in one classroom. Both plan, deliver, and evaluate the instruction together. The benefits of co-teaching are many. Greater cooperation between students in co-taught inclusive classrooms is definitely one of them. The other benefits are that the co-teachers demonstrate successful collaboration, it promotes positive role model, knowledge in content increases in case of special education teachers, and general education teacher can learn curriculum adaptation, differentiated instruction, and techniques in behavior management, all of which are of extreme importance in case of inclusion. Other forms of benefits are peer acceptance for the students, as we can see in the picture. acceptance of students' strengths and weaknesses. Now we will discuss very briefly certain important co-teaching models. The first model, which is very popular, is one teach, one assist. One teacher teaches while the other provides assistance to the students in the classroom. The second one is one teach, one observe. Co-teachers can observe the students' participation in the teaching learning process. The next one is parallel teaching. Both the teachers teach the same content simultaneously, dividing the class into two groups. The next one is station teaching, in which the content and students are divided. Each teacher teaches the content to one group and subsequently repeats the instruction for the other group. Next is alternative teachings, where one teacher takes responsibility for the larger group while the other teacher works with a smaller group. As we can see in the video how it is being carried out in a real-life classroom. There is a teacher who is teaching a bigger group and another one who is dealing with a smaller group in the same classroom. The next is team teaching, where both the teachers deliver the same instructions at the same time. There are two types of team teaching, namely the traditional team teaching and the collaborative team teaching. In the traditional team teaching, two teachers work together and collaboratively impart knowledge on related themes, as we can see in the video clip. In collaborative team teaching, there is a collaborative exchange of ideas between the teachers forming a team, a test-taking approach leading to a collaborative solution. The students are teamed and urged to do the same, a strategy that enables diverse students to grasp the content or concept through live discussions, questioning, and solution hunting. Here we can see some pictures taken at Guru Harkishan High School, Khar, Mumbai by the Department of Special Education, SNDT Women's University, Juhu, Mumbai. With their due permission, we can see how two trainees are teaching in an inclusive setting collaboratively. One teacher teaching with the text while the other teacher is helping her, and then they are sharing their load with each enacting their preconceived. Now we will come to project-based learning. Students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an authentic, engaging and complex question, problem or challenge. Project-based learning is a great vehicle for meaningful inclusion because each of its project design elements and teaching practices are geared toward creating the kind of engaging and dynamic learning environment that are also known to best serve students with a wide range of disabilities. The project approach builds on natural curiosity, enabling children to interact, question, connect, problem solve, communicate, reflect, and more. This kind of authentic learning extends beyond the classroom to each student's home, community, nation, and the bigger world. It essentially makes learning the stuff of real life and the children active participants in and shapers of their own world. The two important steps for effective PBL are collaboration and differentiated instruction. We now come to the problem-based approach. Another very effective classroom strategy for inclusion is problem-based approach. It is a student-centered instructional approach in which students collaboratively solve problems and reflect on their experiences. The important steps which are involved in the PBA or problem-based approach are: first, students are presented with a problem. Next, they discuss the problem in a small group PBL tutorial. They define the problem and brainstorm ideas based on the prior knowledge. They identify what they need to learn to work on the problem and what they do not know. Then they reason through the problem. The third is the students specify an action plan for working on the problem. Then they engage in independent study on their learning issues outside the tutorial. This can include library, databases, the web, resource people, and observations. Then they come back to the problem-based tutorials, sharing information, peer teaching, and working together on the problem. They present their solution to the problem at last, and then they review what they have learned from working on the problem. All who participate in the process engage in self, peer, and tutor review of the PBL process and reflections on each person's contribution to that process. Another very important strategy which was mentioned in the beginning was explicit instruction. Explicit instruction practices include providing step-by-step explanations, modeling, engaging in guided practice, practicing the skill or element independently in a variety of applications, support in making connections of new to previous learning, teacher explanations as to the importance, usefulness, and relationships of a new skill or cognitive strategy, and consistently eliciting student interest. Where is explicit instruction appropriate in the class? We have to decide when to use this. On the basis of what shall we decide? When the goal is teaching a well-defined body of information or skills that all students must master, then we think of explicit instruction. When assessment data indicate that students have not acquired fundamental skills, strategies, and content, then again we think of EI or explicit instruction. When assessment data indicate that student progress towards mastery of skills, strategies, or content needs to be accelerated, then EI comes in handy. And last but not the least, when inquiry-oriented or discussion-based instructional approaches have failed, then we think of EI. So students, today we have briefly covered some important strategies of classroom practices that facilitate UDL, that is Universal Design for Learning, and differentiated instruction. These specific strategies which are used for effective inclusion in the class include cooperative learning, co-teaching, project-based approach, problem-based approach, and explicit instruction, which has been discussed in detail in today's module. Thank you.